Good afternoon. I guess it's 4 o'clock Berkeley time, so we can begin. My name is Jack Citrin. I'm the Director of Institute of Governmental Studies, and together with the Institute of International Studies, whose Associate Director, Harry Chrysler, is sitting in the back, I want to welcome you to the inaugural event of the Harold Smith Lecture Series on American Defense and Security Policy. And it's a privilege actually to have former Secretary of Defense William Perry inaugurate this program. He is on his way from Palo Alto, stuck on University Avenue at our last desperate phone call, but he will be here momentarily, and we will start the film even if he isn't here. This lecture series is named after Dr. Smith, who's here in the first row here, and I'll just give you a truncated biography of his. He's had a truly distinguished career in both academia and public service. After receiving a PhD in nuclear engineering from MIT in 1960, he joined the Berkeley faculty, and he was a faculty member here until 1976, when he retired as chairman of the Department of Applied Science to pursue his interest in, shall we say, greener pastures, other pastures, but basically initially in managing, consulting in the high technology area, and then later in government. From 1993 to 98, he served as Assistant Secretary of Defense for nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons, with responsibilities for reduction and maintenance of the American and NATO arsenals of nuclear and chemical weapons. Harold has numerous publications, numerous awards and honors. I'll just mention a few. He's a Fellow of the American Physical Society. He's a commander in the Legion of Honor in France, which is unusual, and he has won the Distinguished Service Award of the Department of the Defense. We're fortunate now that he's a resident scholar here on campus at both the Goldman School of Public Policy and at IGS, and it's through his interests, efforts, and support that we're able to have this lecture series, so it's really appropriate that we name it after him, and let me just welcome Dr. Smith.
I have never introduced anyone in absentia, but that's what I'm going to do now. Secretary Perry is somewhere on University Avenue. Let me assure you that when he was Secretary of Defense, he would be helicoptered in, and he was never late. But traffic being traffic, he is. So let's pretend he's here, and I'll give you just a brief introduction of Dr. William Perry. First of all, I'll make it easy on all of us. He is a man of many titles. So I thought it might be helpful if I just reviewed the titles for you, and then you can decide how to address him during the Q&A, the question and answer period that will follow the showing of the film. For example, you could call him Professor. He's the barbarian professor at Stanford in engineering. Or you could call him Director Perry. He directs the Preventive Defense Project, which is located at Stanford and at Harvard. Or you could call him Master Perry. He has a master's degree from Stanford in mathematics. Or, of course, Dr. Perry. He has a PhD from Penn State, again in mathematics. You actually could call him President Perry. He was the president, the founder of Electromagnetic Systems Laboratory, a very successful Silicon Valley startup that eventually was purchased by TRW. You could call him, if you like, Executive Vice President Perry, because he held that post at Hambrecht and Quist, a very famous, successful venture capital firm in San Francisco. And for those of you who have served in the Army, as I have, you can call him Private Perry. I'd recommend against that, but you can call him Private Perry for his service in the Army of Occupation in Japan following World War II. For those of you who are from the British Empire, please feel free to address him as Sir William. He is a Knight of the British Empire. Or you can use any of the titles of 10 other nations that have awarded Bill this kind of an award. And I don't want to pass over the fact that President Clinton awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1997. For those that like big words, you can call him the Honorable William J. Perry. He's been confirmed by the Senate at least 3 times. He was the 19th Secretary of Defense, so it's most appropriate, if you'd like, to call him Mr. Secretary. Now, my recommendation is that you not use any of those titles. I would recommend you call him Bill. Just plain Bill. He is a man of spectacular capability and a dedicated public servant who is now engaged with George Shultz, Henry Kissinger, and Sam Nunn in a truly noble project. That is, can we look forward to a world without nuclear weapons? And if so, how? So I recommend you listen carefully to the film, watch the film carefully, draw your own conclusions, be prepared for the Q&A that will follow. I will stop the film when Secretary Perry and his wife Lee arrive, just so we can give him a brief round of applause. But I can say, even with Bill not being here, that it's an understatement of the first magnitude to introduce Bill Perry to this audience. At this point, I was going to say Bill, but that's not going to work. So you know my qualifications: PhD, MIT, nuclear engineering. Can I indeed start the movie?
I want to